Welcome everybody to Home Ice with David Quinn. I'm Michelle Gingras alongside Steve Valiquette and Rangers head coach David Quinn. And guys, an exciting show today to get to as we discuss the latest news in the NHL's return to play plan. Also, Rangers center Mika Zibanejad will join the show from Sweden. And as always, Coach Quinn will answer your questions on Twitter. But Coach, it was announced last week that training camp is now officially set for July 10th. That's obviously assuming that medical and safety conditions allow. And although it's not official yet, there are also some rumors swirling that the Rangers could be headed to Vegas as one of the hub cities. So what is the biggest challenge now for you and your coaching staff as you just start to prepare for this next phase?
Yeah, we're just taking it step by step, Michelle. Obviously, we've been, since the format was announced and we knew we were going to play Carolina, we've been focusing on Carolina, but there's really no secrets in this game, in this day and age with video and all the prep work you do during the regular season. So, maybe there's some trends that we've been looking for a little bit when we're breaking down our film with Carolina. But at the end of the day, as we've talked about before on the show, we've just got to continue to do the things we were doing to put ourselves in a position to get into the playoffs. And, we're just going to do them a little bit better, a little bit quicker, and a little bit harder when the playoffs start. So, obviously there's excitement right now because people are talking about training camp starting on the 10th and talking about potential sites where we're going to end up. But, at the end of the day, we just got to take it step by step. And we're just really working on trying to get our players over here in a safe manner and a timely manner. So when we do get going, we're ready to hit the ground running.
As you just mentioned, maybe there's no secrets in hockey. And I know you've had plenty of time to already be breaking down Carolina. So we thought it would be a good idea to highlight a different matchup that'll be taking place in this upcoming series. We want to try to do this every week. So this week, we want to focus on the Rangers power play versus Carolina's PK. The Rangers had a lot of success this season on the power play against Carolina, scoring 5 goals in 4 games. And what is just so impressive about that is that Carolina has a very solid penalty kill unit. So what did you notice about what was successful for your team?
Well, I thought we were opportunistic, one. I mean, it's been fun. Everybody talks an awful lot about the fact that we went 4-0 against them this year. And if you watch those games, I mean, they certainly should have won the first one. The second and third, we did get big leads and they did make comebacks. And I thought the fourth game, from start to finish, we probably played our best game against them. But we've gotten great goaltending against them. I think our power play, like I said, has been opportunistic against them. But that being said, our power play was opportunistic against a lot of teams. I think we're 7th in the league in the power play. So our power play has been pretty good all year. And, when you're able to put out the players that we are, you're going to have a chance to have a successful power play. So I don't know if it was so much that we found a hole in their penalty kill. I just think it was more that the fact that we executed properly and we were opportunistic.
Quinn, in my hockey circle, I've got a lot of head coach friends and assistant coaches that are good friends of mine. And I always tell them to watch the February 22nd game where Carolina played in Toronto and David Ayres came in as the Zamboni driver and how Carolina defended. I was so impressed with that performance. They've got a great young defense. Are there any things that you could maybe share with our viewers about how you can attack a really mobile defense as good as Carolina's?
Well, I think, if you're going to dump it in without a purpose, you're going to really give them a chance to get out of their end. And because they are good at, they got a real good mobile decor, Slavin and Hamilton and the rest of that group, Brady Shea now. I mean, they're mobile back there. And, we're going to have to be really, really efficient in managing the puck through the neutral zone. And if we do have to get it behind their D, it has to be with a purpose and it has to be with speed. So, our transition is going to be very, very important against them. We've got to do a really good job of going from defense to offense in a hurry, maybe catching them a little bit of sleep coming out of our end. But managing the puck through the neutral zone and not allowing them to slow us up, allowing them to slow us up is going to be key in order for us to establish some offensive zone time.
Coach, like we do each week, we like to look back at defining moments of the season. So 2 really interesting games that stood out to us this week. They both were Tony DeAngelo game-winning overtime goals. The first one was Max Zuccarello returning with the Wild in November. So obviously a very emotional game there. And then a little over a month later, another really intense game against the Toronto Maple Leafs in Toronto. I believe they scored with like a minute left in regulation to tie the game. And then the Rangers went on to win that one in overtime as well. So how critical for your team's young development and just confidence overall were those 2 games really before the new year even kicked off?
Yeah, that game in particular in Toronto really jumped out at us because, obviously it's a great environment to play in up in Toronto. They're as talented a team as there is in the league. They're very, very dangerous. To have, they score late, a little bit deflating. They tie it up. But for us to come back and win in overtime on the road, again, I think it was just another step for us in our growth. It was another step in our level of confidence. It was another step in us, being able to set ourselves up to have success the second half of the season. And, there's something about winning up in Toronto and Montreal and those original 6 cities, especially up in Canada, it just feels a little bit sweeter.
Quinn, I just want to ask you just your opinion on 3-on-3 overtime. Do you think it's overcoached? And one thing that Michelle and I were talking about on the MSG 150 last week, this might be a new rule for us, Michelle. It's similar to a backcourt violation in basketball, where maybe if the NHL instituted a rule where you can't bring it back over your own red line and regroup, would that be something that encourages maybe a little more offense for 3-on-3 overtime?
It certainly would cause more turnovers. But, there's really, maybe I'm missing the boat here, but there's really not a lot of coaching that goes on. There's some concepts, things you have to keep in mind, shooting wide and changes and, puck support and things of that nature. But you got to know who you're out there against too. I mean, if you're out there against high-end players offensively, you've got to make sure that you're pretty selective in your shooting and starting the breakout. Think of how many times you watch in a 3-on-3 overtime where you get a great scoring chance and all of a sudden they're going on a breakaway or a 2-on-1 the other way. And sometimes you'll force the ones that really bite you, the ones where you force offense and now they're going the other way. So, has to be a little bit of give and take. You can't sacrifice offense because you're worried about defense sometimes. But, when you get in those 3-on-3 situations, it really is mano-a-mano hockey. And, it's a lot of fun to watch, and it's nerve-wracking for sure from a coaching standpoint.
Valley was talking about Carolina's defensemen earlier, and your defensemen have actually scored the most points in the NHL this year. And while that can be really exciting, it could also probably, I'd imagine, provide some anxiety for you, especially if they're giving up odd man rushes on the other end at some times during the season. So how have some of the more offensive defensemen on your team found that balance kind of as the season progressed?
I think you really saw it the second half of the season. It's why we were successful. We've always been able to score goals, but I thought early on we were sacrificing defense to create offense. And then I thought as the season evolved, we found that balancing act. And, it was actually, when we played up in Montreal the last time and ended up winning that game 5-2, during the game, they showed a stat where from January 7th up to that point, we were the 5th best defensive team in the league. So, and it was for an extended period of time. It wasn't just, and obviously our goaltending was good, but if you watched us, periodically, you watched us in November, then you watch us in January, then you watch us in March, you could see the growth structurally from a defensive standpoint. And, again, it was just the evolution of our team and guys trusting each other and guys, having faith in each other and, everybody doing their job. And, I think we did find that balance the second half of the season.
Yeah, I like to say it's a good problem to have everyone scoring. But I guess as a coach, is it different to navigate between, okay, look, guys, I know we're getting goals here, but your most important job should be what's the priority?
Yeah, I think,
it
is. No, I mean, selling defense isn't easy. I mean, guys, they want to score, and I want them to score. That's the one thing we continue to reiterate. I'm not telling you to defend so you don't score. You can do both. That's when they have the puck, you have to play defense. There's clarity on what you need. The problem with our game is when you're not, there's a lot of turnovers and there's a lot of situations where they're 50-50 pucks. And I think that's where we got a lot better. When we weren't sure who had possession, we took on defensive responsibility instead of cheating and thinking offense. And, we're good enough that we can play, a smart way and still be productive offensively. And I think that's kind of what our guys realize, that those 50-50 puck situations, are you one step on the wrong side of it or are you one step on the right side of it? And if you're one step on the right side of it, inevitably you're going to end up getting the puck. And I think that's what we did a much better job of as the season progressed.
All right, coming up, we'll be joined by one of the great Rangers goal scorers, Mika Zibanejad, will join the show when we return on Home Ice with David Quinn.